Hello, welcome back to another video. So this is gonna be another one of those videos where I talk about movies I have watched lately, but I don't feel like they need a full review, but like I still want to talk about them. And again, this video is not scripted, so I am just rambling. So I have 3 movies I'm talking about today in this video. 2 of them kind of coincide with each other because they're part of a franchise. But the other one is a movie that a lot of people have been asking me to cover for a long time now. There's a certain actor in this, you've already read the title, but I'm gonna still pretend to not spoil it. There's a certain actor in this movie who I'm particularly fond of. So anyway, the first one I'm gonna be talking about is Friday the 13th 3D. Half of this movie is just, you know, Jason going, haha. I don't know how I feel about this movie because on one hand, it's so bad that it's good in a lot of places, but in other ways, it does drag quite a bit. Side note, I did not like the first Friday the 13th movie. I think I'm like in the minority when I say that, but there's like almost nothing I like about the first Friday the 13th. I really did not care for it, but I heard the movies got more fun as they went on, and plus I want to watch Freddy vs. Jason because I've seen all the Nightmare on Elm Streets. I love the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but I wanted to watch Freddy vs. Jason with Friday the 13th, like also in like that context, I guess. So I've been waiting to watch all the Friday the 13th. I did really like the second one, though. I think I'd have to watch that again. I may watch the first one again, I'm not really sure. The second one is like so solid, like it's so good. It's really like campy and fun at times and like goofy, but at the same time it has, to me, one of the best final girls. Like it's so freaking good. Like it's so clever when she puts on Jason's mom's sweater and pretends to be his mom. That was genius, and it works so well because they established earlier that she was like a psychology major. I'm like, oh my god, like she's an actual character. First of all, part 3 looks so cheap. Like it looks bad. And I think part of it is because of the camera that they had to use for the 3D. Either way, it looks so odd. And like especially the scenes where it has like the 3D where they're doing like that thing, the footage gets so blurry and it's so odd. And even like, I know this is the first movie to have Freddy's mask, but even like his mask looks kind of cheap. I think they finally like refined it, but I guess it's supposed to look cheap because of how he got the mask, which I'm like, there aren't really characters in this movie. They're just bodies to get axed off pretty much. Like there's like petty drama amongst everyone. Let's see, I don't even remember their names. I only remember Vera because I tweeted, which by the way, I have a Twitter now. I mean, I've always had a Twitter, but now I have a new Twitter because my old Twitter was the one I've had since high school, and I just want to start over because I was just really awkward and embarrassing in high school. Anyway, I tweeted that she needed to, and I put on Letterboxd too, that Vera needs to drop the hair tutorial ASAP because she slayed the house boots down. There's this one guy, what was his name? Shelly. I think his name is Shelly. At first, I kind of felt bad for him, but then his whole shtick is just him constantly feeling sorry for himself, and you just want to drop kick him because it's like, now you're just doing this to get attention, and it's somehow working. And then of course he got mad and was like, why don't you like nice guys like me, when Vera like rightfully turned him down. Let's see, the final girl is fine. The part where she is explaining her history with Jason is so freaking goofy.
Kicked the knife out of his hands and I ran.
But like all the outfits in this movie slayed. But like I say that about almost every 80s movie, so I mean I'm a broken record at this point, but they slayed. But there were some scenes in this movie that were genuinely off-putting. I think that's also partly because maybe because of the camera they used, and it has like that kind of like surreal low quality to it. Like the scene I think that's the most off-putting to me is at the end when Jason has his mask off and like it's daytime and then he just looks at her, like the final girl, I forgot her name, I'm so sorry, and he just smiles, and then he just like it's actually so off-putting, and I was like, ooh. They ripped off their own movie. They ripped off their own franchise. Like, how? But instead of Jason, it's Jason's mom. See, it worked in the first movie. Like, I will give the first movie props for that. It worked in the first movie because it has like that like open-endedness to it, and it makes sense because Jason drowned. But in the third one, it's like, we know what happened to Jason's mom. This is just dumb. And there's like this whole subplot with like this like biker gang or whatever. They're like that tomfoolery. But the score in this movie has like some kind of disco. It's very odd. Like, it's so bizarre. After like this big flashback of like the past movies, which I think some people complain about it, but I like it, even though it really is there to stretch out the runtime. But like, you know what? I don't mind. But after that, it like zooms in on Freddy's mom's head, and like and it has like the Friday the 13th part or 3D, and it's like There's really not much to say about this one. Like, yes, it's technically a bad movie. It's really fun. It's like, it's a fun bad in a lot of spots, but in other spots it drags, and like there's just not a lot of character work, really. And I've noticed with the Friday the 13th movies, this one doesn't get mentioned a whole lot either, other than like, oh, this is the first one that has Jason's mask. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Jason gets his mask from Shelly. That's the origins of Jason's mask. Are you freaking kidding me? He just took it off this random kid. Fine, whatever. But I've noticed with this one, not a lot of people talk about it other than this is how Jason got his mask and it's in 3D. But I have seen some people say this is their favorite. So I don't know. Next movie I watched was Friday the 13th Part 4, which is apparently like the fan favorite. I definitely see why this is the fan favorite. Like, I think especially after Friday the 13th 3, which is like the one that I feel like is just kind of there in a lot of people's eyes. 4 is such an improvement, and it's like legitimately good. It is very slow in parts, especially the beginning, but I mean, I feel like that's just like something that almost all slasher movies have. A lot of slashers do start out very slow, but then things get going after a while. But first of all, just seeing an actual good camera quality, like after watching Part 3, I was like, yes, please. Like, it actually looks like a movie. And not only that, there's actual characters in this one. Like, what? And plus, this movie also introduces Tommy, who's played by Corey Feldman in this movie. And I know he's like a recurring character throughout the rest of the movies. So first of all, this movie is important in that aspect. It was also supposed to be the final one, but we all know what happened to that. And plus, this one is Crispin Glover. I think this is before Back to the Future, like right before. Yeah, and he has some sick dance moves in this movie. The characters in this movie are like actual people. Don't get me wrong, like they do still kind of fall into like the stereotypes that like these horror movies have. You have the more promiscuous girl, you have the girl who is more like reserved and hasn't like done anything. You have the stoner, you have the awkward guy. But I actually like kind of enjoyed watching their like little side stuff. Like, it doesn't have really much to do with the movie at all. When it really comes down to it, this movie is just about Jason taking people out. But I'm glad that like the writers and everyone like went that extra mile to actually make you like somewhat care about some of these people that they're about to axe off, like, you know, are gonna get axed off. Like, it's not that hard. Just make people characters. The fits, especially my favorite fits, my favorite looks in this movie are from the twins. I don't remember their names, but first of all, I love that their outfits were always coordinating, very cute. And like, I like the pastel blues that they had on, and very cute. Mwah. I also love that this movie, like, other than the teenagers, or like actually I don't know, I think they're supposed to be like college age. They actually have a family in this movie as well, and they actually establish like their relationships and their family problems, because I know like they said the wife was like going through a divorce or already had a divorce or something like that. I like that they establish Tommy as like being like knowledgeable of horror stuff. Having this family actually made the movie like have more of an emotional stake to it as well, because first of all, Jason in this movie, like, yeah, I mean, he's always brutal, don't get me wrong, but he just feels so brutal in this movie. He's like scary. He's just so like, he towers over everyone. And then when he finally, like, when the sister realizes what is happening and that he's gonna go after her and her brother, man, I felt like my stomach sink a little. I'm also an older sister to a little brother. It made me think like, oh my God, like what if? So I was getting a little emotional. I didn't think I'd get a little emotional over a Friday the 13th movie, but I did just a little bit. Like I didn't cry, but I was just like, oh my God. Tommy also is a cool character. First of all, he's like what, 10? Or I think they said he's 11, and he axes off Jason. He's so freaking smart too. He thought on the fly to shave off his hair and like dress himself to look like Jason to like catch him off guard. It's very similar to the final girl in the second Friday the 13th, using your wits. And I like the moral ambiguity. I like that at the end, when like he just kept going and his sister was like screaming, okay, stop, like he's gone, he's dead, stop. That last shot where he just looks at the camera, like it looks goofy, but I mean, I like what the writers were going for there. I did hear though that they ended up dropping this like kind of subplot later on when they do bring Tommy back, which I know he comes back in the 5th one, so the very next one. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard from multiple sources that apparently the 5th one is just not it. Editing Avery back at it again. I have seen part 5 now, and I can attest, it was not it. Y'all are right. Part 5 sucked. Part 6 though. Part 6 ruled. Anyway. But overall, now that I've seen the first 4 Friday the 13th movies, I would rank it, so from worst to best. First one, worst. Actually, part 5's the worst, but past me didn't know any better. I really did not like the first one. I tried. I wanted to like it so bad because I know it's a classic. It was as boring as I'll get out. Oh my God. The twist with his mom being the killer is kind of brilliant. Like, yeah, I knew it was coming. I mean, everyone and their mom knows about that twist, but it's still good because it's like you wouldn't suspect the older like lady, older camp counselor to be. But other than that, first one, very bottom. Then I'd rank the 3rd one, and I think, I don't know, I think the 2nd one's my favorite so far. Really like part 4. I can see why it's the fan favorite. I think 2 is my favorite so far, and I know 2 is a lot of people's favorites too. Now we're on the 3rd movie that I watched. We're doing a complete tonal whiplash here. This is a movie that people have been requesting to me. I wish I liked it. I wanted to like it so bad, but I just can't. And that is the secret of my success. As I'm filming this, I watched it last night. I saw it was leaving Netflix next month, so I said screw it, because I'd been planning on watching it for a while for reasons. I wanted to like this movie. I did. There's a lot of things about this movie that I was like, oh my God. And like this movie, it started off so good, like so strong, and it just completely fell apart. So this movie is about this guy named Brettley, who's played by Michael J. Fox. He's from Kansas. He moves to New York because he wants to climb the corporate ladder, and shenanigans ensue when he starts working at his uncle's company in the mailroom, but he sees an empty office, so he decides to occupy that office, but he like has a double life. I don't know why I'm having a hard time explaining this. It's like, it's not that hard of a concept, but this movie started out so good, like very, very cheesy. I like the way it like opens up with New York and everything, but then like it intercuts with him arriving in New York, and then it intercuts with him back in Kansas, where we have like the exposition, like, I'm gonna be successful, and his parents are like, why do you have to go to New York? And he's like I'm gonna be someone someday. And it's like, yeah, like you're ready. Like and the music in this movie is probably the most 80, like almost 80s sitcom type music, which makes sense because you literally have Alex Keaton in the main role here. I've never heard so much saxophone in a movie score. It is unintentionally hilarious, but like so charming. The soundtrack too, like especially the opening song, which I guess is the theme song for the movie, banger. But like this movie, it started off so good. Like I was enjoying it, and then he gets fired like right off the bat. Then he has to go to all these places, and he's like interviewing. One tells him he doesn't have enough experience, which is an issue that I couldn't even laugh. I was like, ooh. There was another scene where they told him that he just did not qualify, and he's like, what do you mean? Like I can do it. And then she was like, are you a minority woman? And he was like, and then he finally goes to his uncle. So the secret to success is nepotism. Thank you, Hollywood movie. There's like this scene where he's looking out at the skyline, and it's like beep, 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 wow, wow, wow. The look of this movie, it has such like a vaporwave aesthetic to it. Like this movie looks great. Like hear me out, looks wise, this movie was oddly ahead of its time in that type of way, because with like the resurgence of vaporwave and like synthwave music, the music in this movie is also the type of music that like synthwave artists would probably make. But then this movie falls apart. So the first act has like the really like fun, quick editing, and it's so fun. Kind of that like motivational, inspirational, like let's take on the world. Even though the first act is not without its flaws, I will be getting to that storyline in a second, don't worry. And I'm not the only one that feels the same way. I looked at reviews for this movie, and a lot of other people were saying they also agree that this movie started off very, very strong, and then it just started falling apart, just started spiraling. One of these things is because they shoehorn in a romance subplot, which, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, I love a good romance. Like, a movie like this can definitely have one, but it's the most forced thing ever. His love interest, I don't remember her name to save my life, is played by Helen Slater, who she was Billie Jean in The Legend of Billie Jean.
Sure, it's fair!
And she was also Supergirl. Never seen Supergirl, but man, I have heard things about it. He sees her, and the love at first sight scene in this movie it's unintentionally so funny, but it's also so charming. And the music, the saxophone going hard in this scene. In his big blue eyes. But she doesn't have much of a character in this movie. She's so boring. She's so boring. Helen Slater, I'm so sorry. You were too good for this movie. Like, they did not write her a character. She's just there. Her whole thing is that she's a very good accountant. But other than that, like, you don't know much about her. And then I guess at one point they reveal that she fooled around with the boss. And of course, there's that whole thing. This movie, like, tried so hard to convince you that they're like meant to be together, and like this, like they have so much they have so much chemistry. And no, they don't. First of all, she has like no personality. They barely know each other. By the time they kiss, it's the most forced thing in the world.
Boring, yawning, sloppy, lazy.
characters don't really have chemistry with each other, and the actors I don't know if it was just me, but the actors also had like no chemistry with each other. Helen Slater and Michael J. Fox were just, I don't know, it was kind of like watching two stick figures just kind of, I don't know, they just did not play off each other well. Man had more chemistry with Claudia Wells, who played Jennifer in Back to the Future. He had more chemistry with her in like those, she was in Back to the Future for what, like less than 5 minutes, like total. He had more chemistry with her in those little scenes than he did with Helen Slater. They kissed like halfway through the movie, I think, but they didn't have many scenes together before. I'm like, I don't care. And like, this movie wants you to believe them as a couple so hard. They have like the waitress, like they're like on a date, I guess, and the waitress comes up and she's like, oh, you guys look good together.
You make a good looking couple.
I don't believe you, but okay. Nothing against any of them personally, nothing against, but together, like they just did not work for me. Like, I don't know, like I just was not seeing that. All right, speaking of chemistry and love interests, let's talk about the one subplot in this movie. How do I say this? Marty McFly fools around with this ant. You heard me. I wish I was joking. But I'm not. That is the thing that happens in this movie. The first scene with her, he acts as her limo driver and he's driving her back to her estate, and like he's like kind of charming her, kind of hitting on her a little bit. Like he's supposed to be portrayed as like just a nice guy, I guess. Just like very charming. So, you know, Michael J. Fox. But then she like really takes a liking to him, and they play the Ferris Bueller song. First of all, they've played that song twice in this movie. First time they play it, I swear they play like the entire song. This went on for like 5 minutes. They had like close-up shots of her like looking at him, like putting on her lipstick, and it's like, oh yeah. And like they had close-ups of him, and like you can tell like she really likes him. But then this is where it gets messed up. I never thought I'd have to put a trigger warning or a content warning for The Secret of My Success, some goofy 80s movie. But here we are. Content warning. Assault. I'm not kidding. First of all, she kind of forces him into her pool. They're both in the pool together, and it's portrayed as being funny. Like they even play the Jaws music, but it was so uncomfortable. In this scene, she literally ripped his pants off. Yeah. Next scene, it's after, yeah, like it's all implied. They're both chilling. He's like on cloud 9, you know? But then someone comes home. Her husband comes home, and you know who her husband is? His uncle. Then he's like, oh my God, that means you're my aunt. You know what she does? Instead of freaking out going, oh my God, you're my nephew, she laughs. She's like, oh, ha, ha, ha. He spends the rest of this movie, like not every scene, but many scenes after this movie, trying to just avoid her. She repeatedly tries to assault him, and it's portrayed as being funny, and I'm like, this is not funny. Girl, like, I don't care if it's through marriage or whatever. I don't care. That is still your nephew. You're nasty. Like, there's literally this one scene where they're in this room, and like there's a couch in this room, and he's literally trying to push her off of him, and he's like, no, stop. And she's still, I don't understand why the subplot even had to be in the movie. I'm like, it's just ugh. So yeah, we have icky. What was up with Michael J. Fox in the 80s and being in movies with incest subplots? There's a woman in his family who's just so infatuated by him. If I had a nickel for every time that happened. 911? Yeah, I'd like to report on the man who wrote The Secret of My Success. Also, throughout this movie, he's in a bunch of business meetings because he's like trying to pose as being like what they call a suit. So like someone who's like in the higher up. I swear, you need an MBA to understand what the heck anyone is talking about. Am I just stupid? Well, I was also live tweeting this movie, so follow me on Twitter. Even though that thread got mumbled or jumbled and it's like kind of out of order, but I think I was pretty funny during this live watch, I guess, like this live tweeting of this movie. After he moves into this office and like the plot really like gets going, there's just like the fun scenes are like very few and far between. There's this really funny scene though where I'm not going to go into it too much, but he starts conducting the noises that are coming out of his neighbor's room. That was funny. Michael J. Fox, like, he can never fail when it comes to act. Like, he can never fail. Michael J. Fox can never do you wrong. And then we do get this fun scene. So this is the second time the Ferris Bueller song, the oh yeah, like that song plays. It's like all four of them. So Michael J. Fox, his uncle, Helen Slater, and his nasty aunt, they're like all four like running throughout the house. The way they filmed it and edited it and everything, like it's very Scooby-Doo. And it was entertaining. Like if you take out like the context, like it is creative, it's fun. Also the mansion they were at, so pretty, so pretty. Can we please bring back wallpaper? I know it's a pain to get up. Like I know it peels, but it's so fun. Like you don't have to do all four walls. You can like have an accent wall or something. I don't know. But yeah, then this movie kind of ends. Helen Slater, Michael J. Fox, of course they have this fight because it's revealed that she was getting with his uncle, and then like she finds out that he's living a double life and that he's not the person she thinks he is or whatever, like that whole thing. But then they get in this elevator, and then the elevator comes up. Before the elevator even like opened back up, I literally said, they're gonna be making out, aren't they? I was right. I was right. It's funny on its own, but context of this movie, they don't have any chemistry, so it's like, oh, like why? And then so they make out, and then they decide to go in the office. I can't lie, I have no freaking clue what happened. I don't know. I didn't know what they were saying. I finally just gave up and started continuing my little life tweets, I guess. They stormed into the office, I guess took over, I don't freaking know. The end. And then her and him kiss, and like, and she's wearing the dress, which is actually a nice callback, I'll give them that. Like she's wearing the dress she was wearing in like his fantasy from earlier. So yeah, Secret of My Success. I never thought there would be the day where I would watch a movie with Michael J. Fox that I didn't like. I'm so sad. I'm so sad. Literally not his fault at all. He was easily the best part about this movie. The acting was great in general. This is one of those movies where it should have worked. I think I talked about this in the video I did where I talked about Wolf. It had everything going for it. It had a great cast, like great music, but it's just, it all completely fell apart because of the writing. Like I just wish this movie could have like just been as fun as the first act, I guess, and like really stuck the landing. You know, for some reason this movie was like pretty successful in the box office. I will say though, I am surprised because this movie has such a great look to it and it has that vaporwave aesthetic to it. I'm really surprised that like people who make music videos to like synthwave songs, that I haven't really seen anyone do a music video with this movie. Like this movie look-wise was ahead of its time, oddly enough. Now writing-wise, so yeah. Maybe I will make a synthwave music video to The Secret of My Success, even though I did not like this movie for the most part. Because people edit career opportunities all the time. So there's my little mini reviews today. Anyway, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Letterboxd, follow me on TikTok. So yeah, thank you for watching.